This morning, we look. You got Fox 6 on. Here we go. Yeah, always start with crime. Always starts with crime.
Oh, 6 is in Hampton. Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
at that station. But hey, I'm
Oh my God.
it's just for me, man.
Yeah, that little strip over there on Hampton, man. Hampton is turning into.
Yeah, man. Hampton is turning into a war zone, man. His father and mother began to argue, so he put it in. Oh
boy.
Daddy grabbed him by the collar. So anyway.
Wow. So
blessed assurance.
They taking away our history because they got rid of Uncle Ben and Jemima.
There you go.
That's what Meech has said. I just, you know,
history. I don't think
Jay,
that's
give
it.
me
you know,
I got
you. Okay.
They did not. Now we named some stuff. Some of them were not black establishments. However, they were in our community and they became staples. Like, man, I loved the charcoal pit. My mom would take me there, and that was like, man, that was big time.
You got black lungs after
Yeah, black lungs.
you walk up out of there.
Covered in soot.
Jesus.
But it was a good burger. It
Yeah.
was a good burger. I like, and I try to, if I'm not in a rush when I'm at Burger King, I tell them to give me my burger off of the grill. Don't microwave it.
Yeah.
Just give it to me.
Just off the grill.
Man,
Yeah.
Get that real charcoal.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like soon as you put it in the microwave, it take away from that grill.
And they're
taste,
doing it because
man.
they're trying to melt the cheese.
Yeah.
No, man.
See, but you know what we used to do
You
was
Burger King or something?
Yeah, Burger King. But what we used to do was, soon as the meat came out of the thing,
Conveyor.
yeah, they used to put the cheese right on there and then grab it off and put it on the burger.
Now they cook a bunch of them.
Yeah, and then they have it
put them
sit.
in the warmer.
Yeah.
Because I know McDonald's now, I think for the quarter pounder, they do that fresh.
Yeah, but
and I know Culver's, they do theirs.
Culver's does it fresh.
Everything fresh.
Yeah, man. I think Culver got real meat, man. They got real cows, man. All these other places. They got them right.
Black 40.
Yeah. Right. But all these other places, I don't know where they get their meat from.
Well, Wendy's is, Dave always said that the 100% beef,
Yeah. Now, I believe Wendy's.
Never frozen also.
I believe Wendy's. I believe Culver's. With all these other places, man.
Anything's possible.
Dolphin, man.
No, what you used to say?
It tastes like
goat
chicken.
meat.
Yeah, goat meat.
Have you ever had goat?
I have had goat.
Yeah, I've had goat. Goat tastes a little bit like, well, obviously like
it
lamb.
tastes real sheepish.
It's sheepish. I hope not.
It tastes real sheepish.
They're not.
They used to
same animal.
There's a fundraiser at Metropolitan. They used to have. It was called the International Food.
Oh wow, really?
I don't know if they called festival was, and what they did was different people would cook these international dishes.
Oh,
and Oprah Winfrey's mom, Miss Renita Lee, would always bring in goat. Oh my God, always bring in goat.
But that's more of a. Is it curry goat? Are you referring to curry goat?
Yeah.
Because that would be like a Jamaican dish.
Jamaican dish, right?
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Obviously, you want the lamb. The lamb is, and they're the same thing. Aren't goats and lambs? Goat.
So wait. So, did she bring in Billy or did she bring in his brother?
It's curry.
Oh, you brought in curry.
Yeah.
Oh, so they bring in Billy.
Funny, man.
No. Hey, man. Because what's the difference between Billy and curry?
Curry is a seaseasoning.
Oh, yeah. Curry. So curry is spelled with a C.
Correct.
Billy spelled with a B.
That's a great field education, man.
Hey, man. Know your history.
That's a great field education.
Hey.
Oh, man. Look at you.
Wow.
Or as somebody else told him, Keith, he should have went to MPS.
Yeah. I really would have been worse off.
I know you missed the mock chicken leg.
Listen, that was my thing, though. I mean, I think every school had the mock chicken legs, because even in the 220 program, we had mock chicken legs.
Really?
Yeah, Greenfield, we had mock chicken legs.
Yeah, I had them at Tulsa, too.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, see, I think we had the real chicken legs.
But see, you know what was heartbreaking to me? When I don't know if it still held true, but I know when I first started, and Jermaine went to the same middle school that I did.
Yeah, I got kicked out.
Walt Whitman there in Tulsa. I did too, Jermaine. Don't feel like the Lone Ranger. They run us both out of there.
Got kicked
hey,
out.
You know what they said?
What?
You're no Keith Parris. There's no room for you here.
There's no room.
Because unlike some of my classmates, I love being where I was.
No.
Some of my classmates act like they was in jail. Man, I can't wait till the end of the day. Dude, really? I left fighting.
Yeah.
I left fighting.
No, that part is true.
I left fighting.
That part is true.
Oh,
Yeah.
At Parkman?
Man,
I was
every day there was
fighting
a
every
fight
day.
at Parkman. Every day.
No, seriously.
But as long as they wasn't whooping you.
Sometimes it was me. I you know, I believe everybody in that school had at least one fight. Boys, girls.
That's true.
I did. When
that is
attended
true,
every-
man.
Oh man, it's just and there was a little alley that we used to go over to right over there between 15th and 16th Street.
Yeah.
You know, because you wasn't gonna fight on the playground.
Yeah.
You just get beat up on the playground.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, you get beat up, and then by the time the teachers get out there, man,
It's
ain't
too
nobody
late.
there. It's
Yeah.
too late.
Man, listen, I used to fight.
Did y'all go to the
Every
mall
day.
shop?
Yeah, dude, the best French fries ever.
Yeah.
Where?
The
The
mall
mall
shop.
shop.
That sounds familiar.
Oh man, what 14th and Concordia?
Yeah. I get screwed up over in that neighborhood. I don't know if that's Concordia, but it's like a block before you get to Keith Avenue.
That was the longest block though, man.
Yeah, it's a very long block.
Because you know to get from there, now you got to get back
Yeah.
for your lunch hours.
Oh,
over.
Yeah. So you never had the chance to experience that?
No, not
Never
that I
had the mall
can.
shop?
Not. It sounds familiar, but
Yeah.
I don't think I have.
And it was like, and think about it. This ain't no money now, but it was like 50 cents.
Oh wow.
And you get that dude give you this big. Now people went over there in the neighborhood. They went there for the ice cream because you know it was like it was a
Yeah.
malt shop.
Yeah.
But and it was right up the street from Metro. So yeah,
Mother Tate lived around the corner from it.
yeah. See, and you know, gotta turn me on. Musician back in the day, Vody Reinhardt. He was a drummer, and Vody took me over, man, and I was addicted after that, man.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Except on Mock Chicken Leg Day. I am not leaving the building. When I was in 9th grade, I was a lunch monitor, which means that I get
extra
free lunch.
tickets.
So man, you shoot double lunch.
Yeah.
Double lunch.
But
Wow.
cheeseburger day was still a good day.
Yeah, because it seemed
Even-
like
Pizza day was good.
Yeah.
pizza
and-
day and the cheeseburgers. Because
But wait, it didn't even have to have the cheeseburger day. It could just be the grilled cheese day.
Oh, grilled
yeah.
cheese was
Oh,
good too.
my
They
God,
did grilled
Man,
cheese
we were
on the
just as
bud.
excited.
Yup,
Yeah.
yup,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yup.
Hey,
Yup.
you gonna eat that? A lot of
You
fights
gonna
started
eat your
about that.
cornbread?
Now you know they estimated we had between 1,800 to 2,100 students at Parkman. Parkman was overcrowded, right?
Oh wow.
I'm telling you, on Mock Chicken Leg Day, you couldn't find a seat in the cafeteria.
Yeah. So how
Boy,
many
yo,
lunches did y'all used to have? Because
Three?
we had we
Three
had
lunch
A, B,
periods.
and C lunch.
Yeah. 3 lunch periods. And the cool thing about Parkman was on the lunch period, you could go to, they used to have a sock hop
Mm.
and they play music.
Oh wow.
Boy, I got my feelings hurt up in that spot. You could go to the library. You could go to the movie, right? And they show movie in study hall. It took them almost 3 weeks to show the birds. Movie the birds?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Who was in that? Was I'm trying to remember.
Tippi Hedren,
I thought
Rod Taylor.
what was the one Shelley Winters was in?
Shelley Winters is in a couple of, what is Shelley Winters?
Virginia Woolf. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Something
That
like
was
that.
Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton.
Huh, well, it was one Shelley Winters. I was scared of that movie.
Shelley Winters' claim to fame is she just about slept with everybody in Hollywood. Hollywood swinger.
You said just about.
Just about. Between her and then Betty Davis.
Oh, she's
Betty
got
Davis
Betty
would
Davis
sleep with
eyes.
every director, so she could control the director. So anyway, last night though, I was point of view, POV on PBS. They did this documentary where they had followed this young lady, and it really caught my attention. Her name is Francia Elana Marquez Mina. She's a Colombian-born human rights and environmental activist, womanist, lawyer, and politician who is the 13th and current vice president of Colombia. Now, why is that significant? Is because she is Afro-Colombian. And I was telling Michelle, I had a girlfriend, Pamela Foster, who she was going to a college in Carlisle, Pennsylvania called Dickerson College. They call it the Little Ivy, Little Harvard. And so they had a great international studies program. So she went to Colombia, Medellin, to study Spanish and psychology. And so she wrote me and she said, Keith, the people look just like us. Now, when you think of South America, you always think about indigenous people, you never think about us. But the reality is that wherever the Spanish went, they took Africans as enslaved individuals. And so this woman is a descendant of those Africans who were enslaved there in Colombia, to the point where it doesn't look like there was a lot of intermingling, because both countries like Colombia, certainly Brazil, there was a lot of intermingling among the indigenous people, the African people, and then the European people. That's why when you look at Brazilians, they can go from Pelé, who was very African looking, to someone, I'm trying to think who else is Brazilian. Oh, I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, Oscar Schmidt, basketball player.
No, but I thought Pele was African.
No, Pelé is
real.
Brazilian.
Wait.
Oscar Schmidt.
I thought Pele was real dark skinned.
He was. He's African.
Yeah. I do remember Pele.
So he's African, right?
Yeah,
African
descent.
Yeah.
But I thought you said something about his skin tone. What are you saying? It could
be as dark as Pelé.
Okay.
Or as light or as fair as Oscar Schmidt.
Okay.
So who did he play for?
Oscar Schmidt played for Brazil. He was, if you ever remember back, he would have been in the Olympics in the 80s. He was a prolific scorer. And he never got to the NBA. Oh, man, he couldn't shoot. Yeah, he could shoot.
Yeah.
But, the diversity there and the intermingling. And I know in America, we sit up and we think that there's a whole lot of interracial relationships.
Yeah.
Because in America, our society was built on English society, right? It was the British, basically, that founded these descendants of British folks who founded America. So our segregation was so severe. Now, this is not to say that slave masters did not have relations with enslaved Africans. That is true. It is also not to say, if you go to places like Mississippi, especially Mississippi, Louisiana, where there's intermixing of blacks and indigenous folks. But when you look at the majority of black folks in America, yeah, because I'm thinking that they estimate that interracial relationships, because black folks have the lowest rate of interracial relationships in America, something like 10% of our population. But because it stands out, we think, oh man, nope. And a lot of it had everything to do with the rigid segregation that was in America, the separation of folks. We talked about it during enslavement. We saw post-enslavement where you had things like Jim Crow, segregation laws go into effect. And then where even they had the laws on the books in the South, in the North, I think it was called de jure. It's where it is not necessarily in the law, but it's the customs, right? So when my mama's came up, when they came up from Tennessee, they were forced to live down. Everybody talk about the Haymarket. Black people lived in one neighborhood, right? And even, we talked about when I was at Parkman, you still had to transfer to another district. By the time you guys came along, it was 220. That was all part of the desegregation settlement by Lloyd Barbie. And I think Attorney Jacobson was part of that. So what this young lady did was it resonated not only with the descendants of Africans that were in Colombia, her candidacy also resonated with indigenous people. Because what was happening was there's gold everybody think about Colombia and we think narcotics, right? We think cocaine, but there's a lot of gold. And what was happening was they were forcing Afro-Colombians off of their land. They had passed legislation that said that gold companies, there's one gold company, Anglo Gold Company, that would go in, basically rape the land, move the people off the land, take the gold. People get no benefits from it, even gold miners. It was, so this woman, she was an environmentalist. There were people in, and I can't think of the gentleman's name in Brazil when they started cutting down the Amazon. Now, when people say, well, why are they, what they call it, clear cutting, why are they cutting down the Amazon? Well, they wanted the lumber or they wanted the land. But the problem was, in terms of the environment, what that forest did there along the Amazon River and what it does for our environment. So we cut down all these trees. When the gentleman was here from the sewage district, he talked about how they're trying to purchase wetlands, right? Because we paved over all of this land, water has no place to go. So now we're looking at more flooding. They talked about in Texas, for example, that's a floodplain, but they'd also been dealing with a drought. Nature always adjusts herself. So now, because it was a drought, they said, well, they got what, like 6 months of rain?
6 months.
And the ground is so hard because of the drought, it wasn't absorbing the water.
Yeah, in time. Yeah.
Right. And so this water comes in, and I just can't even, they showed a graphic of what 28 feet of water looked like. It was like the second floor of people's houses.
I saw it on the news, and when they was showing all of those graphics, and they was showing how high 20-something feet of water is.
Yeah.
And just imagine me, I'm 6 feet, 6'1". So 20-something, no, seriously, I'm 6. There you go. Put me on the scale, man. Look at my basketball card, man.
You know, they measure you in your sneakers now, right?
Well, then I'm 6'1" and a half.
They don't do it barefoot anymore in the NBA.
I'm 6'1" and a half then, if I'm in my sneakers. Nah, but seriously, just to see 20-something feet of water is scary, man. God, dog.
And it wasn't like subtly rising.
Yeah, it came quickly.
Boom. Because I don't know if you saw that thing when they were up on that little high.
I seen it.
And they see the water coming up and they backing up like, oh, damn.
Man, listen, I saw on TV when they did the time lapse of how fast, because I think they said that it rose in like 20-something minutes. And just to see the time lapse of how fast the water came in, it's like if you on feet or even in the car trying to outdrive it, you wouldn't have been able to.
It was moving that fast.
It was moving that fast. That's scary, man.
And so we have issues around, obviously, climate change. Michelle talked about it. We have issues around the federal response to that, where, Trump is saying we're going to get rid of FEMA. And Michelle brought up a good point. States like California, New York, even parts of Illinois, they send a disproportionate amount of money in terms of taxes to the U.S. government.
Right.
And I always find it amazing that people will argue about, and Michelle, it was a good point. You have a problem with government until you need it, right? And that's the reason why we formed this country in the first place, that there's mutual benefits. We pay taxes because there's mutual benefits, whether it's defense of the country, whether it's the highway system on the local level, whether it's your library system, your school system, all these things people benefit from. Like I pointed out, and if anybody knows differently, please let me know. But I don't know any conservative that sent back those stimulus checks. I don't know any of them said, I don't want the money. They all took the money. So, it's bad government when it benefits somebody else. It's my government when it benefits me. And then just when they show that dorm or either cabin where those young girls were, and to see the devastation in there, and you go like, wow. And then my question is, why were they so close to the water? I would have thought that the younger campers would have been on higher ground. So, and then I don't know if there's any going to be any liability for that camp in terms of what people will do, but it's just amazing. Now, It is nature. You know, Dr. Myers was talking about his hurricane season. It is nature, man. But nature now has been disrupted because of all the pollutants that we're putting in the environment, right? I was talking. Oh, I was talking to the gentleman from MMSD, and we were talking about one of the environmental crises that no one is talking about, but is a crisis, are cell phones. They estimate that there is at least as many cell phones as there are people in the world. Think about that just for a moment. And what do we do with the cell phones when they no longer, because now you can't, like an Apple phone, you can't even go in and change the battery on an Apple phone. That's part of the design, right? So either you have to take it back to Apple, let their technicians work on it, or you dispose it and you get a new phone. Where are they going? Where are these batteries going? Right? Where are the materials going? At some point, they're going to dump them in the ocean. That's going to heat up the ocean. Everybody knows that climate change has everything to do with the oceans heating. So I'm going to do the call and I'll go to break. I'm sorry, normally. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hello.
Good morning.
Oh, I was just calling in because I know you was trying to figure out what movie Sherry Winters played in, and it was Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah, she was in Poseidon Adventure. All
right.
Yeah.
All right then.
All right. Oh, she did A Patch of Blue with Sidney Poitier. But what was the movie? She did a movie with Montgomery Clift, Elizabeth Taylor. I'll have to look that up during the break. When she gets pregnant by Montgomery Clift, he falls in love with Elizabeth Taylor. She's like, Shelley Winters is like for a working class woman. Elizabeth Taylor comes from this very well-heeled family. He ends up killing Shelley. Oh, okay. Shelley Winters. Wasn't she in Big Bad Mama too? One blaxploitation movie. All right, you're listening to Community Voice. When we get back, we'll be inside Be Healthy, Be You. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
AURN News.
A new report is shedding light on who holds power behind the scenes in Congress and who doesn't. According to the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, the percentage of Black senior staff in House personal offices has dropped slightly since 2018, from 6.7% to just 6% in 2025. At the same time, the share of all people of color in those top roles grew from about 14% to nearly 22%. The Joint Center says these staffers play a critical role in shaping policy and public engagement, especially in diverse districts. The Congressional Black Caucus and Congressional Progressive Caucus were the only groups to match or exceed national Black population levels among top staff. And while 60% of full committee chairs in the CBC hire Black staff directors, just 56 out of 377 House personal offices employed even one Black staffer in a top position. I'm Jamie Jackson, AURN News.
I'm Adriana Mendez, and in your 4 to know this morning, search and rescue efforts in central Texas enter day 5 following deadly flooding. More than 100 lives have now been lost in the floodwaters, and officials
With your host, Keith Parris, Brenda Buchanan, and Julia Means on WNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM.
They play so well, don't you agree?
Oh, them boys good. They good.
Good, good, bad,
Awesome.
good, awful.
And that conductor back there. Woo!
We're inside Be Healthy, Be You. We're joined in studio by Miss Brenda Buchanan and Miss Nancy Leahy. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody today?
Doing
Good.
well.
Huh.
You?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. Brenda, you reminded me of a song. I don't know if you heard A Sundress. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bright little girl today.
Right.
Lighten up the place. Nancy's helping.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So,
Bright light too.
huh?
She's a bright light too.
Bright,
Oh, yes.
bright, just bright. I'm just looking outside. Yeah. So, how was everybody's 4th?
Great. Ours was pretty laid back. We grilled a lot of food. I don't know why we grilled all that food. I was, out in California. We just hung out in the backyard and played some music and cooked. What did we play? A lot of Frankie Beverly and Mays because he knows I like that.
Summertime, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody
Uh-huh.
played that.
Yeah.
How was yours, Nancy?
It was good. I was up north in the North Woods on a boat for a long time, for about a week.
We're up north.
Tomahawk.
Okay.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Was it hot?
It was hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That little heat dome.
Mhm.
It was. But you know what? And someone pointed out in December, we're complaining about the cold.
It's true.
Mhm.
Can't
It's
wait
true.
till summer come. I'm just sitting out watching the trees. Like, when are you going to green? When are you going to green? I don't know what kind of summer we're going to have this year. It's 30 years ago. It's one of the hottest summers we had, and I think it got up to like 100 degrees.
Mm.
We were living in a flat on 46th Street, and we had no air conditioners. So we moved into the Astor Hotel.
I remember this.
Yeah, it was hot.
It was bad.
There's a documentary out on that summer in Chicago, and like 700 plus people
Mhm.
died
Wow.
from the heat.
Mhm.
That's what they could identify, but there were people probably having heart
Oh,
attacks
sure.
and
Oh,
other
yeah.
things
Mhm.
because of the heat. St. Louis, a lot of people died. So being able to, when it gets hot, and then it wouldn't be so much if it was just hot, but it's also humid,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
makes it. We were in California, we were in San Francisco, and it was hot as it had been. And years like 100 degrees. It was just more the sun because there was not a lot of humidity.
Yeah, it's
But it-
intense.
Yeah, but if you're like in DC, that now it's like a swamp. Miami.
Yeah.
But my buddy called me from Tampa. He said, "Man, it's hotter in Milwaukee than it is in Tampa."
It was hotter here than it was in Los Angeles. It was beautiful there, upper 70s, low 80s, no humidity. It was perfect.
And then it cools at night, right?
Oh yeah, at night it'd be 60s, 50s, have the windows open. It was great.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome, ladies, and concert tomorrow night next week.
Yes, concerts in the park tomorrow with our own Debo. I don't know where he went, but his band will be playing tomorrow night at 5:30 at Gingler Park. So looking forward to that. Last year he really had the crowd going, so it'll be a great time. If you've never heard them play, you should come on out.
It's a fun event.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see.
See. Okay.
I
What,
see.
What do you see?
I see. We're talking about eye and vision.
Oh, I see.
I see.
Yes.
First of all, I'm amazed. We're talking about cataracts and glaucoma. Before we even get to that, let's just talk about, and I don't know if there's any numbers out there, the number of people who are dealing with vision issues who have not had it corrected either through, because I guess you do laser surgery now, right?
Mm-hmm. They can do laser surgery.
Or glasses.
Mm-hmm.
How many people you think in the population that don't wear glasses that should, you think?
a very large percentage. I mean, I even have a friend of mine that she can hardly see, but she's very vain. So she does not want to wear her glasses. She'll put them on when she has to read something, but she shouldn't be driving without her glasses. But, you know, she doesn't want to wreck that pretty face, I guess. Mm-hmm. But, you know, not a pretty face if you run into something and smash against that what do you call it, that deploys? The airbag. Yeah, it can be pretty then. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of people. Part of it is people aren't getting, you know, exams. Some of them maybe not be able to afford glasses, which is very expensive. I mean, you even talked about when you broke yours, your mother wasn't getting you a new pair of glasses. You're going to have to
and that was in those. The 60s.
Yeah, you're going to have to wear those. You know, and then again, we get kids that aren't being evaluated. And, you know, when we were kids, we talked about this before. The health department came in and did so many different things in the school. They came in and they did vision exams. You know, they did our vaccinations. They did all of that. Now, you know, you have to make an appointment. And if your kid doesn't know any different, it's usually a teacher that picks up on it, that he either can't see the board. Especially when you're nearsighted, they're more likely to pick it up because you can't see the board. And so a lot of kids go undiagnosed until it gets bad enough that a teacher notices something and brings it to the parents. And so,
and the thing that had precipitated me even going in for an eye exam was I was just having bad headaches.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And
that's eye strain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's, okay. Hey man, what I tell you about talking to me during the show?
I tried to do it discreetly, but but I guess it came out loud.
Did you step away?
I tried to do it in real time.
We'll do it live. Do it live.
This is what happens, really.
We do it live.
This is what really happened.
We've had breaking news. We've watched stuff happen out here.
I know.
Like, y'all gonna do a program? No, because we're reporting the news. No problem. No, someone wanted us, and we'll do it to announce again the park address time for tomorrow night. But this, and I know because I was tall, height discrimination. Because I was tall, I would be in the back. You know, they put me in the back. And God, when I was, I think, a kindergartner, me and James Turan, Pat Harris, we were pretty tall for our age, right? But we'd be in the back and didn't know. And so teachers are kind of like, well, what's your problem? Is I can't see.
Yeah.
You know, but the vanity piece drives a lot of it. But
yes, it does.
Well, I actually had the LASIK surgery done twice because my vision kept changing. Like I had glasses too as a child, and at some point I was kind of done with it and got pregnant. My vision changed in between there. I probably shouldn't have had the surgery quite as soon in between pregnancies and had to have it again. But now I'm finding, right, I'm middle-aged now. Now I need readers, and now I actually need maybe some glasses for driving again. And so, you know, and I don't want to wear glasses again all the time after I've had not worn them for 30 some years. So now I'm like, I kind of get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was funny, like people you grew up with who you remembered in glasses and either contacts or LASIK surgery, they no longer wear glasses. But there were people like myself who people never remembered me in glasses, right? And then people never remember me not having hair. And so it's but when you look at the designer, we were just talking about the jacking the young lady.
Yes, that was I saw that on the news. That was terrible.
But when you look at now glasses are, I mean, they're so high fashion, and people
statement piece.
Yeah.
They are, and they cost a lot. I mean, I always get decent frames. I like, if I'm going to wear them, I'm going to pay for them. But, at my age, I've got bifocals, and I certainly ain't doing the bifocals I used to have where, they were visible. So I have to have the blended and all that. By the time, yes. So and then I because I always have always had issues with sunlight, which is part of the reason I ended up with glasses, because I would have so much pain out in the sun. So I always get mine that turn colored. They darken when
usually
I go
that
outside.
happens with vampires.
Yeah. Dang it, I should have kept my mouth shut.
I need to get it.
Yeah, don't come by me at nighttime. You see a different Brenda. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, you're right. I guess I probably do have a little vampire blood in me, right? I don't know if I was born with it, or or if I got bit somewhere along the way. I'm not
Which
sure.
is it turned out to be a very interesting movie, Interview with a Vampire.
I
just thought that was one of the more. It was. I don't know how we got on vampires.
You brought up the whole vampire. You made
the
me
Lost
answer.
Boys.
The Lost Boys.
Lost Boys.
What was the one? Buffy, the Vampire Slayer. And then the Eternals. All of those originals. Was it original? The ones. What was that whole series of vampires? But yeah, there's a lot of them.
There's a lot.
They're all beautiful. Yeah, True Blood.
What I loved about the Lost Boys were the Frog Brothers. Edgar and Allan.
Edgar and Allan Frog.
These guys. Edgar and Allan. Edgar Allan.
Yes.
Pope, right? But it was the Frog
Edgar
Brothers.
Allan Frog Brothers.
And he said something about the young lady and the girlfriend, and he said, "I will not hesitate to stake her."
Well, even Sinners, the recent movie Sinners.
Yeah.
Oh.
Were they vampires?
They weren't. Some of them were. The two that survived at the end, remember they were talking in there about the ones that live forever are vampires. Some of them were just haints.
Right.
But the ones that so the two that one of the brothers and Haley, the girl that played his girlfriend.
Okay.
The two of them, at the end when they come back up with the musician that they wanted, that played the blues. They were the two. Guy? They were the two vampires.
Yep. The names Smoke and Stack.
Yeah, Smoke and Stack. Right. Yeah.
So the vision piece.
Yeah. So what I was saying.
So we do know that vampires have compromised vision during sunlight.
They do. Right. Or they pretend that they do, so nobody notices their red eyes. But no, but even for me, my glasses are $850, $900.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, and that's because, again, I'm not getting the basics because I am going to wear them all the time. And so
you need special lenses.
Yeah. So glasses are expensive. I was in, I think, 6th or 7th grade when I started to wear glasses.
Yeah.
And again, it started out with just all the issues with my eyes in the sunlight. And so when I took me to the eye doctor,
kids can be pretty cruel with people who wear glasses.
Yes.
And especially girls.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, it's vanity. So I'm just saying that in terms of us being able to make sure we should have regular eye checkups. I know I do.
Especially if your insurance covers it, you should go every year.
Yeah.
If you have certain health issues, as you get older, you should go every year for sure.
Right.
But and go to a doctor. A lot of people, will go to like a Walmart or something like that, and because they want glasses. But you should really get a full eye exam every year. And they have come. I'm just amazed at everything that they do now for a complete eye exam. It's a medical eye exam.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking behind your eyes.
Yes.
Yeah. They're looking behind your eyes. They're looking at your veins. They're looking for tumors. Or
your pressure in your eyes, for
pressure
glaucoma.
in your eyes. Mm-hmm. All sorts of things.
Great segue. Thank you, Nancy.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, excellent. But we talk about that in terms of, I know one of the eye exams I had with an ophthalmologist, I don't know if they still do it. They do the puff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can also see if you're diabetic, right?
Sure, hypertension, diabetes. Oftentimes, you might go into an eye doctor, and they may refer you up to a primary doctor. Say you need to go back and see someone, especially if you haven't been diagnosed.
And that's where you're getting the dilated eye exam,
Okay.
where they have to dilate that pupil so they can look at the back of the retina and to see. That's where they see the blood vessels, and that's a little bit different just by looking at it. But the puff exam that you're talking about, I think that's more, or they do now where they actually numb your eye and they'll touch your eye with a measure or something, a gadget that measures the actual pressure inside your eye, and that's what they're looking for with glaucoma.
Mm-hmm. And it's much more accurate than the puff test.
Mm-hmm.
I just wondered, because I was thinking about, I wonder, could I have gotten in the military with my eyes? I don't, not during the war, they don't care.
Yeah.
Right. Just shoot,
right? Just point the weapon. But when we go in, so there are a lot of people now. I didn't realize, because you guys have been very good with this in terms of sharing the information. So you mentioned glaucoma.
Mm-hmm.
So what is glaucoma? We hear about glaucoma. What is glaucoma?
There's a glaucoma is just when the pressure inside your eye starts to increase, and so it can lead to too much fluid in there. So there's little channels that help drain fluid within your eye, and those get blocked or just aren't efficient enough anymore. And so as the pressure slowly increases, it can lead to blindness. It can lead to, just those vessels not working very well. There's a couple of different kinds of glaucoma. There's a closed angle, I believe, that is the most common one that's very slowly progresses. And that one you might not have any really symptoms of. And that's why it's so important to get eye exams. There's another one where it's like an acute angle glaucoma, and that is a sudden change in the pressure. It goes extremely high in a short amount of time, and you can have a lot of pain, headaches, blurred vision, and that's a medical emergency that you have to be seen for right away. Otherwise, you can have irreversible damage to your optic nerve.
I was kind of circling back to when we go in it. One of the things, because we should talk about like eye injuries,
Mm-hmm.
and I know in boxing, one of the injuries is detached retinas.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear detached retina, what is a detached retina?
Well, the retina detaches.
Well,
Thank you for that scientific explanation. That's really clinical.
Well, it has to be reattached. It's when it actually separates from the eye. I don't know.
So is that like a ligament, or what is that? A tendon?
The retina is where the light comes into the.
I know that,
yeah.
but what is it detached from? Where it says the detached?
It's from the back of the eye,
right?
Isn't it?
Yeah, what's connecting it? I guess that's the question I'm asking.
Oh, I don't know what connects. I'm sure there's probably little tendons and stuff in there or something. I don't know, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
And so an injury can cause that. Or like if you have, like I had when I was on that cruise a couple years ago, all of a sudden I noticed what I thought was mascara in or eyelash, and kept trying to get rid of it, and it wouldn't go away, and it looked like a perfect little, almost like a circle, like a wreath, and then it didn't go away. So when I got home, I called my eye doctor, went in, and there's this like little fluid in the back of your eye that as we age, sometimes that just ruptures and goes away, and that's what happened. But then that put me at risk for retinal detachment. So I had to have eye drops, and I had to be very careful about anything. If I had flashes of light or pain or anything, I had to be in right away, because that was indicating that retina was detaching. And it's not a nice surgery. The recovery is,
my dad had both.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's you're laying on your belly.
You have to lay face down, in order, and he couldn't fly for months. Like changes in elevation. It was quite the recovery. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this again. So how much of this, and this is kind of a general question, how much of this in terms of what our eye issues are is hereditary? if it.
quite a bit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with glaucoma. With cataracts, I mean, most people, if they live to be old enough, are probably going to have some cataracts. We probably all have the beginning of some cataracts in our eyes at this point. And so that's probably going to happen. It can happen earlier in life from a variety of different things, one being an injury to the eye. But certainly glaucoma, there's a huge genetic factor for that.
And some like macular degeneration too
Mhm.
is another one that is some hereditary components.
But I'm thinking about if I'm nearsighted,
Mhm.
farsighted.
I'd still say with those would
most
be.
definitely.
Yeah. If your parents wore glasses, there's a pretty good chance you will as well.
will. Right.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And if they're nearsighted, more than likely you're going to be nearsighted as opposed to being farsighted.
We're inside Be Healthy, Be You. Miss Brenda. Miss Brenda Buchanan.
And Nancy Leahy.
So,
Leahy.
thank you.
Leahy.
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 Great coach at Notre Dame. Frank Leahy. That's right.
Oh, okay. There you go.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
6.5 FM.
Hey man,
Wake
trying to do
up,
my job,
everybody.
No
Stop
more
your sleeping in bed. Okay, I have to ask this question.
Yes.
And it is an existential question.
Mm-hmm.
How come people did not know that Clark Kent was Superman?
How did they
Right.
not know Clark Kent was
Those
Superman?
glasses were
Was it the
special.
glasses?
That was the only difference. It was the
Yeah.
glasses. You had the same thing in the
You would never know with those glasses on that was
How
Superman.
could they? And it never dawned on me until I became an adult. And you start
Right.
thinking about things like, he looks like Superman.
Right. And he always disappears from the office.
Right.
Superman.
But you know what? That kind of remind me too of how Bruce Willis and Batman, that whole Batman, like he sounds like Bruce. So how do you not know that Bruce is not Batman?
Oh, you mean not Bruce
Bruce
Willis,
Wayne?
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne. Yeah.
I know. But at
Right.
least Batman his whole face was covered up. But if you were close to him, you would think you'd pick
Oh,
up
the
on
Green
that.
Hornet only wore
Green
the
Hornet,
helmet
yeah.
and the hat.
Richards
Yes.
agree.
How did you not? Does I guess the point is, does glasses change one's appearance so much that you're not? Because I think when you take your passport picture, you're not
can't
allowed to wear
glasses.
glasses.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because they want to see your
whole
face.
face.
Yeah.
And now, when you get back in the country, they do facial recognition.
Yeah. Well, when I just went to California, going and back, they scanned my face.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But no, it was one of those things where you I think Family Guy had did a whole thing on, he put the glasses on.
And nobody right. Who
Take
is
the glasses
that?
off, put the glasses on. But I think you talked about it at the beginning, this idea of vanity.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, but sometimes vanity leads us into all kind of maybe health issues or difficulties just
Mhm.
because the idea of having to go. I know for men, having to go in for like prostate exams and
Mhm.
certainly the digital exam,
Right.
no one is real happy about. And then you start complaining to women, they're going, they poke us at every hole. What do you?
Right.
If it's there, they're checking it. And and
true.
from the time we're 21 on up.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, every year.
For sure,
so.
if not earlier.
Right, exactly. So
Well,
we
they
ain't
kinda used to
feeling
it.
feeling
Yeah.
sorry.
Right, ain't
Right.
no sympathy at all. I
Uh-uh.
remember my primary told me, I was doing my first ever prostate exam, and he said, I'm not going to buy you dinner. I'm not going to kiss you, and I'm not going to call you tomorrow. I'm going, you done turned this into
Right. It's not weird at all now.
Right. I wasn't like looking for a date. I just
Right.
wanted to make sure my
And then you go
prostate
home. Was he thinking I
was he-
was
wait a
interested?
I don't know, Keith, because when I took mine afterwards, I looked at her and was like, "You gonna call me in the morning?" She laughed so hard. Hey man, I kind of balled.
you call me?
What we doing here?
Yeah. What's going on? What's happening between
I
us?
know you gonna call me after this, right?
I could, but
Yes, I'll call you and give you the results of your test tomorrow morning.
Hey, I felt some kind of
Get
way.
a text. You up? You up? But I think that would have impact though if it's women don't have, obviously your OBGYN can be male or female, but
Right.
the fact that we would and are there a lot of women who are urologists? I don't
There
know.
are some,
Really?
yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You say some,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but your primary doctor, who usually is the one that does that exam,
right?
there are lots of females.
Yeah, because I had a requirement on me that I need a female doctor. I can't, I'm not showing up. if it's a
Smaller
male.
hands.
Yeah, man, I can't. Yeah, man, I can't have. Yeah, man, like my hand. What? I don't know, man. I feel some kind of way.
Is that why?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey, no, she actually hit it on the head. I didn't want to say it, but yeah, man, I couldn't have Keith hands touching me, man.
Right.
Like, hold on,
You're
man.
like, uh-oh.
Yeah, like,
this
hey.
isn't gonna be
Hey,
fun.
man, I'm gonna punch you in your mouth, man. I need a female.
No, we always look. Whether it's male or female, you should have a primary care physician.
Yes,
We talk
absolutely.
about it all the time, how important that is, regular checkups. One of the things, though, that kind of ended when the COVID money ended was I know for people on Medicare that they could come in for these checkups.
Their annual checkups.
Right. And I don't know if you're Medicare, I don't know if they're still doing that whole wellness.
Yeah, they
Yes.
do. And then and you get paid for that, right? You get some sort of benefit from that wellness check. And it is strictly a wellness check. It's not all the other stuff.
Right.
Certainly you can bring all that other stuff up, but it'll be separately billed and all of that. But your wellness check really is just for wellness, and they expect you to do that once a year.
Right. That's all those screening tests. So if they're, or vaccinations, things like that, that should be part of doing your mammograms and your prostate exams or testing. And that's the important stuff.
And it's kind of because this only just because it came up, and I know you all deal with young mothers with young children. Are you encouraging them to get their kids in, even though we're not necessarily getting a lot of directives from CDC to go in and make sure they do their vaccination regimen?
We talk about vaccines all the time because we want to make sure they have the right knowledge, the accurate knowledge on what it means to get a vaccine, what it means not to get a vaccine, how that affects your children and the people around you. So we talk about that all the time because there are that, like some people just look at social media for their information and they don't necessarily get good, accurate information. And so we run across a lot of, I'm not getting my child vaccinated. Okay, why? And sit down and try to have a conversation so that they understand what that really means, to get a vaccination, how that affects your children, and how it affects people around them, because a lot of people don't have that knowledge. Now, if they choose not to do that after we've done that, that's up to them. But we want to make sure that they know the consequences of not getting their children vaccinated and why we don't have these childhood illnesses now, so they think, I don't need to get it. Nobody's got polio anymore. Well, there's a reason for that. We don't see chickenpox, measles. Now we see measles clinics popping up all over the place.
I just read today that it's the highest amount, I think they said, since 1990.
Yep, 25 years.
Yeah, 92.
And I think, that and I think I got to stop saying that thing. That's why these programs are important, because you're getting factual information. Someone I know, they were going to, now we find out that you don't necessarily have to do it anymore, but then we did not know. They got their daughter the flu shot, but they didn't want to give her the COVID shot. And there was a lot of misinformation around the COVID vaccine. And a lot of it has been dispelled in terms of what people's reaction is. But I am concerned about this measles outbreak because it seemed to not be abating. It's like spreading. So I think it started in Texas and now it's spreading. So,
and measles is like 99%. If there's 100 people in the room and 100 people are exposed, 99 of those people, especially if they're unvaccinated, are going to get measles.
It's highly
contagious. And so that's why you're seeing the spread of it. As long as there's unvaccinated people, or even people that maybe are vaccinated but immunocompromised and not healthy, are at risk, because we know no vaccine is 100%. It's that, that we talked about. The majority of the population being protected keeps, those others protected. And now with this outbreak, it's getting pretty bad. And measles isn't just like chickenpox, although chickenpox can be pretty horrible. Measles can cause death. They can cause permanent damage, vision, hearing, reproductive, and death. So measles is serious. It's not just a little childhood illness that kids get and get over. It can be very serious.
Yeah, and I bring that up because I just looking at we're the most developed country in the world, but in some ways we're almost like third world. And this idea that we allow people to, your opinion is your opinion, but your opinion is not necessarily fact. And so though you might have a strong feeling about something, strong opinion about something, hopefully that is supported by the facts and the data. And until it was just like during COVID, and there were people for whatever reason said that I'm not, especially when the vaccine became available, they wouldn't. There were people who refused to do the mitigation, where we're doing distance and all those things, and then they got sick. And then it gets back to now you're immune compromised. And so now we then find out that there are these other kind of morbidity is that death?
No, mortality.
Mortality. So that people had all these other secondary things.
Right. And people are having to live with that now.
Along COVID.
With long COVID.
Long term.
Yeah. So it also gets to how connected we are as species, because we share environments. And I said a lot, my understanding of community health and the importance of community health. I think that's what, some people, I don't care if Nancy gets sick. Well, but if Nancy gets sick, it can impact on you. Okay, if Nancy's taking up, let's say, a hospital bed that you would need, it does have impact. Or if Keith gives you, I just said that way, you catch something from Keith, because we're more connected. And then we also realize just how globally connected we are.
Right. And that's a big difference than, 50, 100 years ago. People, you've seen more diseases isolated in more countries, but now with global travel and it's some people travel, 2-3 times a month for work. I mean, they're going across continents and, bringing things back. It's very different than it used to be. So when we see an outbreak in another country, we have to be concerned, because we know, like COVID showed us, we had it come in the East Coast and the West Coast. The East Coast was the easier to deal with. That West Coast one that came in hit real hard, real quick.
Right. It was primarily nursing homes.
Yes.
Right? I don't know how we travel. And then I'm trying to figure out, because when we had our early onset and outbreaks, that how people who I know had never been to China, a lot of these people had never traveled. But there were people who came back from New Orleans. They were down for Mardi Gras, who were really sick. And at that point, they didn't know it was COVID.
Right before that.
Yeah, they was just, they were sick. And when people travel, usually you catch a cold, there's something. And so, it's just part of traveling. And then we find out that we've introduced a virus the virus was always there, but this particular strain of virus, right?
Well, it was a new virus, but it was there is a family of viruses
SARS.
that it already fit into, but it was a new virus. So
we had no immunity to
right.
it.
None of us had any immunity.
No, we say new, it was here, right? It just had not manifested itself the way it had.
Well, we still have never gotten 100% clear answer on how it got out of the lab or how it jumped to a human. But either it was a new virus that we were seeing in humans, no matter how you looked at it. It was something. And so, like Nancy said, we had no immunity to it. There were some people that they think maybe if they had SARS-1 that maybe had a little bit, because your body kind of recognized it, like, I kind of, it's a cousin, I see a little bit of it. Maybe I've had a little bit of protection, but for most of us, we had never. That's why it hit so hard, especially with those people who already had other health issues. Or people who lived in areas where there are, like prisons or nursing homes, and where there's a lot of people and it spreads real quick.
And people, obviously, and so that kind of gets us back to even how, again, these comorbidities can impact things like glaucoma or things like cataracts. Is that another one?
Cataracts.
So when we talk about people, for example, who have hypertension or diabetes.
Yeah, they're at higher risk for those, maybe not cataracts, maybe not, that's kind of a little more age related, but glaucoma certainly, obviously diabetes, retinopathy. So we'll see that eye condition, and hypertension. So similar, like affecting those blood vessels in the back of the eye, which can lead to blindness if those burst and leak.
Well, because it used to be, maybe not as much, you would hear about people losing their eyesight because of diabetes. We do a better job, I'm assuming, now in treatment.
We do a better job of treating diabetes in general. I mean, getting people diagnosed, knowing more about how the diseases work, being able to educate people more on what are the things that they can do to help control their diabetes better, and not just medications. We got so many new different medications that are really successful. But the big thing is being able to control that. Just having diabetes alone does not cause all these kind of complications. It's when it's not controlled. And so early diagnosis, and sometimes that's a symptom people get, all of a sudden their vision is really poor. They're urinating frequently, they're thirsty, their vision is suddenly become very poor, which will often send people, drink your water, Keith, into an emergency room or something like that, only to find out that they have diabetes that's causing all of that.
So we talk about that as it could be cause. We talked about it could be hereditary. I mean, we talked about in terms, but how often should people go in for eye exams?
I'd say yearly.
Every year.
Yeah. Especially when you have those chronic conditions. Absolutely. That's kind of at a basic level. Some people, when they're younger, maybe not need to go, and they're healthy, maybe not need to be screened as often. But, remember we used to get our vision tested even just with the chart in the, when
it's
in pediatrics or in schools, in the offices. Those are just kind of general screening. And if there's an issue, send them on. But I think yearly is especially with those chronic conditions.
And when you're younger, they might not dilate your eyes every time you go in, but once you reach a certain age, that's going to happen every time you go in. Or if you have some of those chronic diseases Nancy's talking about, they're going to do it. They're going to dilate your eyes every year.
And when Brenda and I learned this in one of the classes we took, that with type 1 diabetes, if you're diagnosed, because that's usually a pretty sudden onset of that disease, that within 5 years, about 5 years later, is when you should start getting those screenings for your eyes. But if you have diagnosed with type 2, we know that you probably have had the disease for a while and it's been undetected. So then you want to start getting those screenings right away.
Yeah. So with cataracts, you said it more age related. How is that treated?
So that's usually what that is that you get some clouding of your lens, and there's proteins within your lens that start breaking down and clumping, and that kind of causes that cloudiness. But luckily there's a great treatment where they just replace that with the artificial lens, and your vision is corrected, actually sometimes even improved.
And that's such a short, and it's a quick procedure.
It's under local anesthesia.
Yeah. People come home and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know that I could see all these colors. And it was so beautiful, because the dulling happens over time. And so you don't notice it. I know in the one eye that is injured of mine, when I look, if I cover my eye, one eye is definitely more vibrant. The one that I had the injury to isn't as vibrant. It's the colors are a little bit more muted and darker, and that's because of that injury to that eye, which is probably a cataract that's starting to form in that eye.
And I know you had asked earlier about hereditary. I mean, I guess in general, cataracts probably are hereditary, but I mean,
there can be, but
they're also, the older we get, it's just the more likelihood of having those. I think they said by 80, most people have them.
Just breaking down, just breaking down. So we talk a lot about the importance then of trying to mitigate these diseases that could have impact. So get back to things like diet, exercise.
Oh yeah, diet. There's not a disease on this planet that doesn't have some nutrition. Either nutrition has partially led to it, or is beneficial as far as treating the disease. So nutrition, our bodies are they rely on what we put into it, the nutrition we put into it. So we want to make sure we're eating a variety of fruits and veggies and lean proteins,
carrots.
Yes, and those things that.
Now, is that a myth about how carrots improve your eyesight?
Well, carrots do have certain
like the beta carotene, like leads to vitamin A, which we know is very important for good eyesight. So I mean, in general,
but not
eating
enough
carrots
that
aren't
you
gonna
turn
correct
orange,
it.
right?
Aren't going to correct
Right,
anything.
and not so much that you start to turn orange. You don't want to eat that many carrots, which does happen.
I we talked about Superman, Clark Kent, the glasses. So I have to then ask you, seeing we're kind of on cartoons. So what was this thing with Popeye and the spinach?
Well, it's really interesting because on the news today, they were talking about the benefits of spinach in decreasing visceral fat throughout the body, and how this seems to be a particular vegetable that, because of the compounds that are in it, the vitamins and minerals that are in this, really affect visceral fat. So we know Popeye had no visceral fat. He was like,
for his forearm.
That's right. Yes.
They're so muscular.
All his right. So
the rest of the
right. But those forearms, don't mess with him. Yeah.
I'm strong to the finish.
Yeah, because I eat my spinach. Popeye.
The Sailor Man.
There you go.
Yes, we're all old.
Right. And the fact that they were both after olive oil, which is totally like, she had not a curve, not a piece of fat. Yeah, but everybody wanted olive oil, I guess. Spinach, olive oil together is very good.
Yeah,
Brutus?
Brutus,
Yeah.
That was now, as I look back on it, maybe that was a little adultish for us as kids.
I think probably lots of cartoons were.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
A lot of
look at the
innuendos.
ones now.
But not only that,
SpongeBob was the first, like, in your face, like, oh my God.
But not only that, but even when you think about the Popeye and olive oil and the Brutus, the Barbie beefcake, then when you think of all of that, it was almost as if he was strong arming olive oil. I mean, he was trying to, force her.
Which is really kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That seems to be.
He was strong arming her.
Yeah. Wow.
So now that we're older and we look at it, it's like, wait a minute, though, you was almost like Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah, some of those Looney Tunes.
Now, Pepe Le Pew was you're gonna be my baby.
Right.
Yeah, like dude was
he'd go to jail.
Yeah, man, he'll be underneath the jail now.
Who?
The panhandler of that era.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Wimpy.
yeah, Wimpy. Yeah.
You give me
a
burger
today.
I'd
Give me
gladly pay you
$2 today.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
I'm glad we pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Now,
And what's today?
Pookie now.
Tuesday.
Hamburger.
So it's gonna take him 7 days to give it back. If you get it today.
Yeah, then you ain't gonna get it back.
I don't remember him
Yeah,
ever
never
giving
will
it
pay
back.
But I'm back to the whole, like he would eat the spinach,
And then
which got me to actually, and I hate to admit this,
Eat spinach.
I ate spinach.
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna go home and eat a bag of spinach tonight and see if my visceral fat just melts away.
just one big bag. You
Yeah.
should
Pie the sailor.
Well, by the time you cook one big bag, it's about this big.
About
if
that
you cook
big,
it,
right.
But eating it raw, I use a lot of spinach in my salads. Sometimes it's all I use
Yeah.
for green is
Yeah.
spinach. I love
Yeah.
spinach.
Well, something like kale.
Did you know
No,
those
kale
dark
is
green-
genetically modified? Did you know that?
Is it?
And it's been around forever, but originally
They
it
mix
was not a
two
natural.
greens, right?
It
So
was not natural. I think
Yeah.
it was it's cabbage family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm told that it
Cruciferous.
is
Vegetable,
excellent for African American males. What's the reasoning for that, or is there any truth to it?
What was that? Say it again.
That kale is
Yeah,
like
I heard
excellent
that
for
too.
African American males.
Well, kale is good for everyone.
I think it's considered one of those superfoods, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
I
very
did not
good for
know it was
everybody.
genetically modified.
It's genetically modified.
wow, I didn't know that.
I also heard that cucumbers are one of the best vegetables you can eat. It lowers your A1C and does a lot of different things. It's a probiotic in some instances. I don't know what's so special
Well,
about a
a
cucumber.
lot of your veggies are really and fruit are packed with nutrients. And that's why it's so important to get 5 to 7 servings a day. And that seems like a lot, but a cup of spinach is not that much. We're talking about fresh spinach.
Mhm.
If you eat a salad, a decent sized salad, you probably have 2 or 3 servings of vegetables in that. And so those that in the variety of colors represent different nutritional
Micronutrients.
yes,
Yeah.
in those. So your fruits and veggies are really, really important. And most Americans do not eat the allotted amount of fruits and veggies. So we need to really focus on getting that in. And I know some people hate veggies, but it's probably my favorite. Veggies are my favorite. Fruit would be up there, but not as if I have to choose between fruit and veggies, I'm going with veggies.
So you like the VeggieTales?
One quick
Veggie
question.
Tales.
I used to love veggies.
Oranges, watermelon. Is it true that if they're not sweet, all of the nutrients aren't there?
No, that's not true. No.
Watermelon is really good. Interesting
right.
history of watermelon. I didn't realize.
Oh, it's
that
got a lot
watermelon
of nutrients.
could come the seeds that Africans had brought, and there's a whole lot. Well, we'll pick it up after the break. You're listening to Community Voice. We're inside Be Healthy, Be You. Ms. Brenda Buchanan, Ms. Nancy Leahy. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Shalom, family.
What up, bruh?
All is well. Can you hear me okay?
No. Yeah, we can hear
No?
you.
Kind of sound like you got stung by a bee for a second. There was a little buzz going on, but you in there.
You good now?
Yeah.
Good. So I have a question for our resident health experts.
I'll see if I can answer it.
No. Please defer to the experts.
Yeah, let me fall back and let the experts handle it.
So I'm curious how familiar you sisters are with the philosophy or the theory of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his 1 meal a day, philosophy as it relates to, how the digestive system processes food and things of that nature. And then contrasting that with, our own nutrition pyramid and how they talk about the 3 meals a day. So I would ask both of those in context of how the body actually processes the intake of our food. Is it capable of putting out, whatever caloric content may be in 3 meals a day, or is that 1 meal a day that is recommended by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad enough calories, or do we get enough in that the body can process? You follow, what I'm trying to get at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was going to respond, and then I'll let you. That food, Craig, the food pyramid, the food pyramid was developed by the Department of Agriculture through different agricultural lobbyists in order for people then to buy the product. That people have argued that in that food pyramid, there's not a whole lot of nutritional value in what they do, but that's how it got set up. So I just wanted to give that little historical context to that. I don't know if people are dependent on that now.
And we don't
Just
use
to
that
follow
anymore.
up on what you said, if I could real quick, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I'll go and then Nancy can go. I guess I'll go from a medical standpoint. There are certain chronic diseases that having 1 meal a day would not be in the best interest of that person, because they need to have different nutrients throughout the day. There's variety of ones: diabetes, people who don't absorb food the right ways, and there are certain nutrients that your body can only absorb so much at a time. So it can't absorb all of it at one time. But certainly there are people out there that is the practice that they have, and they do find, our bodies adjust. But there are times when that would not be an appropriate lifestyle for somebody.
I would add that when you're talking about caloric needs, I mean, there's a certain amount of calories we need just to breathe, just for our brain to function properly, for some of our organs to function. So it might be difficult to get that in 1 meal.
As a follow-up, though, if that had been our normal practice, and I would take that even from prior to being brought to these shores, right? So if as a people we were eating fewer meals in a day, but more nutritious meals in a day, or at least a nutritious meal that would meet all of those, nutritional values or that our body needed to absorb for the functioning. And then a lot of the hereditary or, medical issues that you may be referring to may not have even developed. Is that fair to say?
I would agree that, I mean, if you're eating highly, highly nutritious meals and knowing that everybody is different, for one person, they may be able to get away with eating a lesser amount of food and be completely healthy. For others, I think it really depends on the person and their body and their physiology that they may not be able to eat that way. I mean, we know that with even how we treat diseases, different medicines work better for other people. So, and I would go as far as say is different foods are going to work better for different people, and some may not agree with them at all. So I think it's really personalized that your diet would have to be, I can't say there's one right or wrong way.
Don't you also think that, and I know it used to be based on agrarian lifestyles, farmers, the biggest meal was breakfast, right? You do something at lunch, and then supper was usually pretty light. Because of the change in our work lifestyle, I think we need to adjust maybe the number of meals we eat or how we eat our meals just because of that particular adjustment?
Well, I think that affects it. I mean, in how much energy you exert each day determines the amount of calories that you need too. So if you're somebody that's going to the gym, working out, or you even have a job where you're on your feet doing manual labor all day, your caloric intake needs to be higher than somebody that's just sitting all day. Because your body needs that just to function. So there are so many everybody eats differently. Some people eat their breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks. Some people eat one big meal a day and then have small. As long as you're getting the caloric and the nutritional needs that your body needs, then it can work. But there are certain health conditions that you have to be consistent with how much you eat and when you eat it in order for your body to function properly. So it's like Nancy said, it's very individualized, but we know there are people that eat that way.
But intermittent fasting is very popular.
Right. Yep. So. But you have to make sure that however you eat, you're getting the right amount of calories, and that the foods you eat are nutritionally dense, meaning they have a lot of nutrition in them. Eating a couple pieces of white bread and some lunch meat is not nutritionally dense. It may taste good, but it's certainly not going to provide you with the nutrition that you need. And then we see people out there. I watched a show on food, different types of food habits people have, that they only eat like 2 or 3 different types of food, and somehow their body manages to adapt to that because they have a very limited palate, whereas some people eat a wide variety of foods. So but to be nutritionally balanced, you really need to work hard at getting in a lot of really good healthy foods, however you do it.
And a lot of our cuisine is environmental, right? I mean, that the things that but America is really kind of unique in terms of there could be some in parts of the region, but pretty much Americans kind of all eat the same thing. And then it's this conglomerate of different cultures that go into our food choices, like Mexican food, Italian food.
Chief, if I could, let me say this. What you're referring to is we eat the king's food instead of like Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, who said, just let me eat the food that the Most High gave me, and then compare me to those who are eating the king's food and see how healthy I am. And I'll leave with that. Yeah. Peace, family.
Because when you go to different countries, they don't have the wide varieties of food that we have. They may, because we have so many different cultures, different ethnicities that even may take the same foods but prepare them differently, or even have some favorites that we don't necessarily grow in the United States. But now, with that global market, we get a lot of different things. So it is different than some of the other countries don't have the diversity that we have.
I would ask people who were recent immigrants, what was the thing about America? They said supermarkets.
Oh, my niece's husband, he grew up in England. One of his favorite things to do here is he loves grocery shopping because of the variety of things. So when he comes here, seeing big supermarkets is just mind blowing to him. So that's like one of when we say, oh, you want to run in, ask somebody to go to the store and get something. He's like the first to volunteer because he just loves walking through grocery stores and seeing the abundance of things that we have.
It is.
Right.
It is.
Whereas we don't even realize it because that's what we have. But, even in a place like England, they don't have the diversity that we have in these large grocery stores.
Who came here because the Irish here, obviously, because the potato famine. That was a staple, and now their staple is gone. And you come, but you're right. All these different influences. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hello, hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. This is Angela Keith.
Hey, Angela.
I have a question for the ladies. I have an irritable bowel syndrome, so, and I don't eat meat, but I barely eat. I mean, I do. I can eat a piece of fruit, just to take my medication. I can't drink milk, but what am I to do? Because the medication that I used to take for my IBS, the doctor passed, and no doctor yet has gave me the right pill that I need for my stomach. So I just do without, But it really, what the IBS is, so you know what I'm going through. When I go through, it's just like, what can I do? Because it's hard for me to keep anything down when I do decide to try to eat anything that's nutritional for me.
All right. Appreciate that.
I would just say, is there certain foods, hopefully, that you're able to find that don't, give you either diarrhea or vomiting or nausea that you could just focus on? I mean, maybe it's finding a new gastroenterologist that you can see that can evaluate you again.
What about a nutritionist?
Yeah. And so registered dietitian. That's a good idea.
And also that nutritionist too, or dietitian might be able to recommend, there's a lot of really high nutritional value drinks out there that, at least will carry some proteins and some other minerals and vitamins in them that you might be able to take. But yeah, I think that's a great start, what Nancy said. If your primary to refer you to another gastroenterologist just to get another evaluation, just to see where things are. There are better treatments out now than there used to be. It sounds like some of those aren't working for you, but I would definitely, if you haven't seen a GI specialist in a long time, that you start there and go back, because if you're not able to eat, then it's kind of a catch-22. So if you eat, you're going to have problems, but if you don't eat, you're going to have problems because you're not getting the nutrition that you need. So that and a dietitian are two really good things that should be able to help you.
Caller, our last caller. Welcome to the program. Good morning.
Yes, hello. Yeah, I had a question. I was listening to the ladies talk about food earlier, and I've checked out some things because of acid reflux that turned out not even to be acid reflux. It was the splinter that opens and closes for your food, that muscle.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
That actually is ran by the vagus nerve system. And that, that little feeling, that little bug feeling, that butterflies you get in your stomach sometime when you, maybe the police get behind you, get that little feeling. Well, that works on the vagus nerve system that also reduces that. But when it comes down to food, because I've tried a lot of things, right? So a lot of times we overlook the blood type that we are, because you can take a guy to try to eat one meal a day, and if he got an O type blood, and that's his body creates a lot of acid. So just let him run around here talking about he's going to be weak and he's going to be sick, because our blood type, a lot of times, we're not even allowed to eat certain stuff. We might think oatmeal is a great thing, but for certain blood types, oatmeal is a horrible thing. Right. So blood type is something that I think we should all look into, and that vagus nerve system that works on that splinter in the middle. We need to be careful and cautious of that, because it'll weaken that muscle. And, the only thing that can get that back is nutrients, unless you try a surgical, and then it'll go back anyway. Nutrients will rebuild that thing like never before. All right, I got to go.
All right. Yeah, we do too.
It is interesting because there is a lot of studies out on blood type and the foods that you eat and what you're more prone to work. So it's not conclusive, but there is a lot of studies out there on different blood types and types of foods.
Yeah.
So let me thank Brenda Buchanan, thank Nancy Leahy. Ladies, as always, informative. Debo, thank you. Jermaine, thank you. Callers, we thank you. Hey, the good Lord willing, creek don't rise. Hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place in peace.